I'll share a few tips on how to maximize your webinar experience. We have several PLTW team members joining us today to moderate the Q&A as well as the chat box. So please join the conversation, share your story, and ask questions by engaging with fellow participants and subject matter experts. Our team members are available to answer questions during the webinar, so if you have a question, please submit them through the chat. Don't worry if we aren't able to answer your question live today. We'll follow up after the webinar with additional information and answers to any outstanding questions. I encourage you to use the chat area to also talk about the content and network with other attendees as well. And we also welcome you to take any of the next step surveys at the end of the webinar. Well, next up, let's check out the agenda. Today, we're going to give you a brief introduction into Project Lead the Way and what it provides to you and your students. We'll hear from students about their experiences with the PLTW program, and then we'll have a discussion with a panel of teachers and administrators about the successes that they've had and how they've implemented and funded their middle school programs. After hearing from your peers, we'll show you what it's like to be immersed in the PLTW Gateway classroom. Then we'll share information about grant and federal funding options available to schools and districts to help you support an implementation. And finally, we'll round out our time by answering any of your questions. So let me share a little bit first about the curriculum. You know better than anyone what your students need, how their engagement is more important than ever, and how they need to see what they can be, and how careers are important to them, even at this early age. And we know that your experience with curriculum needs to make your tough job easier. PLTW Gateway is a 6 through 8 science and STEM curriculum that delivers a learning experience and the training teachers truly want. Because it is created by teachers and led by educators, it fosters curiosity, enables a wide variety of students to shine, and builds cross-disciplinary skills. We hear these stories, and we also hear that it reinvigorates educators with a refreshed approach and a flexible structure. So during this transitional time for students, PLTW Gateway inspires career confidence and empowers students to lead their own discovery. PLTW Gateway provides broad awareness of a range of world's careers and allows students to explore ideas beyond their lived experiences. The hands-on program boosts classroom engagement and excitement and drives collaboration. It sparks aha moments and deep comprehension. PLTW Gateway builds student confidence, strengthening their belief in their own ability to accomplish tasks or reach goals. As students engage in the program's pathways in computer science, engineering, and biomedical science, they see the range of career paths and possibilities available to them. And then the unique problem-based instructional approach supports student ownership of their learning, provides appropriate scaffolding, and prepares students to tackle real-world challenges. And then we have our industry-validated curriculum, right? And it empowers the students to gain the in-demand transportable skills that are highly sought after by employers. Our pre-K through 12 focus progressively prepares students for more engaging, higher-level work and ensures that students can develop a deep understanding of concepts and practices as they advance to high school. When we say career discovery, what do we really mean, right? Here are just a few examples. In the Computer Science for Innovative and Makers unit, students think like hardware and software engineers, physical computing technicians and artists, and wearable technology designers. In design and modeling, they assume the roles of drafting engineer, design engineer, mechanical engineer, statistician, as they use the design process and solve problems. And in medical detectives, students explore a variety of career pathways as they act as emergency room doctors and nurses, microbiologists, neurologists, epidemiologists, and so much more. The 10 units within PLTW Gateway provide a variety of possibilities to serve the needs of each school's students and communities. And because real-world problems are not confined to just one discipline, the curriculum engages students in interdisciplinary learning that integrates multiple fields of study. Additionally, students would be able to practice math and ELA in engaging ways, build confidence, and experience the answer to their own question, why do I need to learn this? To ensure that more middle school students have early and equal access and can leverage the opportunities created by the PLTW experience, we offer all PLTW Gateway units in both English and Spanish. All students and teacher materials are available in both languages at no additional investment to support a variety of immersion needs. The translations support the needs of students for whom Spanish is the first language by building their confidence, reinforcing their social emotional learning, and creating a process to English language proficiency. And to prepare educators to lead the learning and build their confidence in subject areas, we provide transformative professional development. PLTW core training is designed to create dynamic learning experiences for educators through powerful and flexible and instructional support, as well as an ongoing professional community. Teachers take on the role of a student, engage in an in-depth exploration of PLTW coursework, and gain invaluable experience to take back to their classrooms. This experience bolsters teachers' ability to deliver more powerful learning by learning as students do. And PLTW provides additional learning opportunities following the initial training with Professional Development Suite, which gives all pre-K through 12 educators additional instructional and skill-based trainings to continue building student success. And PLTW Algebra 1 Advantage is our new supplemental curriculum designed to revolutionize the teaching of Algebra 1. Its flexible nature allows teachers to effortlessly integrate these resources into existing curriculum. The program focuses on enhancing student engagement in algebra through active participation and exploration. It achieves this by offering a variety of problem and projects that are not only relevant, but also aligned with educational standards, facilitating their incorporation into lesson plans. PLTW Algebra 1 adopts an interactive approach that links algebra into real-world scenarios, effectively answering the common question, when will I ever use this? This connection to practical application serves to improve students' problem-solving skills. And in response to the limitation of traditional teaching methods, the program also employs interactive and applied learning techniques to make algebra more engaging and relevant. This is achieved by including a range of topics like financial literacy, societal and environmental impact, law and criminology, architecture, engineering, and more, and thereby enriching the overall learning experience. We truly invite you to follow our progress with Algebra 1 Advantage by scanning the QR code or going to pltw.org/A18. But now that we've provided you a big picture overview of the PLTW Gateway program, we want you to hear directly from some of our students. Last fall, we were able to interview students about their PLTW Gateway experience. While watching the interviews, keep an eye out for the transportable skills that these students possess, and we couldn't be more proud of them, and we really hope that you are as well as you watch this.
Project Lead the Way is different from other classes because they actually let you do it and show you how to do it, and it's actually one of my favorite classes in the school. All the other students, I think they have fun. They have the same type of fun I have. I love the projects and stuff that we do, it's prepare me for a technology career.
The building part, I think it's pretty cool. You can do a lot in engineering and all through Project Lead the Way. They can help me build relationships, because when you're doing Project Lead the Way, you're gonna need to have conversations with people and be able to talk to them about the work. They can help me find what classes I want for later on in life, and if I get lucky, I can maybe get a scholarship for that.
I like that it's kind of difficult more than my other classes, and it gives me more experience on hands-on things.
The problem solving of it, sometimes it can be challenging, but it can help me learn and problem solve, and it can also help my classes, and also it helps in my future because it's also building it.
When everybody puts their minds together, they can accomplish different things, and they can work together, because if I'm new to the class and I don't really know what to do, but somebody else has been here for a while, then they can help me out.
I think it's preparing me for high school. I think it's going to be like a lot easier now.
In my other classes, it's like pen and paper mostly, but on this class, I get to build things and actually visualize things. Well, I think has helped me because it's given me more work with teamwork, and I think that's going to be really valuable in my life.
These are just a small sample of the variety of stories of impact we continuously hear from students. And we're happy that we could share these stories with you, and we thank them for their time so that you could hear them today. And I want to go ahead and already give a big thank you to our panelists for being here today to share their stories as well. I want to briefly introduce all of you, and then we'll dive into our questions. So first up, we have Miss Sarah Leonard. She's a PLTW Gateway teacher from Lewis L. Redding Middle School in Middleton, Delaware. Next up, we have Andrew Glatfelter, the principal at Academies of Antelope Valley Union High School District in Lancaster, California. After that, we have Sarah Shorts, the assistant principal at Ladue Middle School in St. Louis, Missouri. And finally, but not least at all, in full costume too, which I am so excited for, we have Matthew Fox. He is a PLTW teacher at Innovation Middle School in Orlando, Florida. So thank you all for joining us today. Alrighty, we'll get this kicked off with our first question. And I'm going to pose this question first to you, Dr. Glatfelter, and you as well, Ms. Schwartz. What was the initial motivation for bringing PLTW Gateway to your school or district, and what problems were you solving for at that time? Either one of you can start, and then keep building.
All right, I'll go ahead and go first. Thank you for that. In 2011, I was asked to serve as principal of a newly constructed K-8 school in my district, and so we brought together a committee to look at the curriculum. District, somebody from the community college, from the high school, from the career technical education department of the high school district, and from local businesses. And what we heard is that we wanted students with those 21st century skills that the students in the video were talking about. And engineering is really what we wanted to focus on. It's where the jobs are. There are a lot of jobs locally and across the country where students, if they have that degree, can write their ticket. And we wanted something too where relevance was baked right in. And a year later, 2012, we had a board meeting, and one of the board members asked one of our students, "What is engineering?" And the student said, "It's the application of math and science." And I thought, that is so right on. That's exactly what we were looking for. And the engineering design process isn't just for engineers, it's for all of our students to know about. We wanted to bring it to all of our students. At my school, we were 70% free and reduced lunch, over 70% minority. So in terms of getting it to everybody, that was a main goal. And we saw Project Lead the Way as a turnkey solution, from professional development to the curriculum, materials lists, and then the grant funding. It really encapsulated everything. If I were to go back to that time and be able to talk to myself, I would say, do exactly what you did. You choose Project Lead the Way because of how turnkey it was to implement. We made engineering a period of the day for all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And the way we chose to implement that was with 9 Project Lead the Way modules over their 3 years with us. So basically trimesterly, even though we didn't have trimesters, we would have about a third of the year for each of the modules. And the results speak for themselves. We have the high school who came back to tell us, your kids are ready for us. And that was really affirming. And then we also had students go on to college. We had Kira go on to UCLA to study microbiology, immunology, and molecular genetics. I did have to look up exactly how that's phrased. And she thrived in our program. And Anthony went to Stanford to study aerospace engineering. And when he found out he was accepted to Stanford, his mom said, "KS Stanford, what is Stanford?" In Spanish. She couldn't help in the ways that would teach her how the school system worked. She helped in a lot of other ways, but it was Project Lead the Way. There was a major driver in Anthony getting to Stanford. So incredible results, and I'm just so pleased to be part of the community of educators implementing Project Lead the Way.
All right. Our journey started not that long ago, actually, just about in 2019. Our high school program had been established for a few years before we brought it to the middle school. And we had heard such great things about it from our high school teachers. I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and at my school, we have a huge interest in STEM education. We have a lot of families who have parents who work for Washington University, St. Louis University, and also a few pretty big companies around here that attract a lot of employees like Bayer and Boeing. And so we have just had a lot of support in the community for STEM education. Of course, I think in the last several years, we also have seen a shift in education from the kind of sit and get to the problem solving and hands-on approach. And I think, like Andy said, we're always looking to include all students and to engage all students no matter what background they have. And one of those ways is to get students involved. It's amazing when you go to a classroom that is, maybe an intervention classroom, and you have a program that is hands-on and how students engage in that. And so that was a reason why Project Lead the Way really appealed to us as well. We also felt like there was a lot of information that Project Lead the Way provided, a lot of those units that they already have, so that the teachers could take them, already have something that they could start with, and then also kind of learn it and be able to infuse their own experience and modify it as they are comfortable, which I think is huge. Especially nowadays when we're trying to find teachers and our teachers can struggle sometimes to have something, a really good, solid foundation to get them started was big. So we were able to find a teacher who had some experience in Project Lead the Way, and we began with, I think, 3 of our PLTW classes in biomedical and engineering when he started. And it was so successful right off the bat that we've expanded to 7 different courses now, and we have another maybe 5 or 6 teachers who teach PLTW classes. They might just teach one. There'd be a core teacher who might teach one, and they all stepped up and volunteered to do it because they saw that it was so successful. Kids loved it. And it really exposed them to those real world careers, those careers that maybe don't even exist. And it also helped to, we are always talking in our district, and I'm sure maybe some of your districts, about being future ready and, what's the portrait of the graduate that we want? What skills do we want a graduate of our school district to have? And a lot of those skills are skills that are embodied in Project Lead the Way. So that is the beginning of our journey, and we are still continuing and hope to expand in the future years because of how much we love the program and how supportive our students and families are of it.
Thank you both for sharing just the robust implementation decisions that you all made to bring PLTW to your district and to your students, and how it really solved for those problems. It's really exciting to hear how PLTW was for all students, right? Every student can learn from the engineering design process. Every student can be successful or find success in one of those units. And it's really exciting to know that was at the forethought and at the very beginning of why PLTW came in. Let's continue to focus on those students, and I'm going to come to you, Ms. Leonard, and to you, Mr. Fox, today, and really think about what has been that impact of PLTW Gateway on your students, especially that you're seeing inside of your classrooms or around your school building, and as well as you as a PLTW teacher. Either one of you can start and then continue building.
So I'll be completely honest with you. Before I found Project Lead the Way, I had taught for many years at that point as a math science teacher, and I was actually Google searching on a daily basis what other jobs can teachers do. And I was actually looking to get out of the profession of teaching. I think a lot of us who've been in teaching for a while have seen it very, like a lot of shifts, especially post-pandemic. I know for me as a science teacher, we had switched over to simulations, which is understandable when we were on Zoom or on computers. But when we came back into the classroom, we were still expected to continue with those simulations, and we weren't doing hands-on labs anymore. So I'd really taken that excitement out of the classroom, and my hands were kind of tied with my content. When Project Lead the Way, the individual who was currently teaching it, left, within 5 minutes of her putting her resignation, I was in my principal's office to please consider me for this position. And Project Lead the Way has really brought my passion back for teaching, and I love coming to work every day. I love what I do. In terms of my students, my classroom is the one that I actually have to ask them to leave, because it's the space that they always want to be in, which is super rewarding and just a really great feeling. Other teachers come to me. In fact, yesterday I had some individuals in my classroom looking at a robotics challenge I was doing with my 6th graders, which I added to our CSIM curriculum, with computer science for innovators and makers. And several adults in the room said, man, I really wish I had a class like this when I was a kid. So other teachers get very excited. I know when I teach my flight and space as a master teacher, other teachers say that too when we go through the different curriculum and introduce it and the challenges. They're very excited to begin teaching Project Lead the Way. So it really brings that passion back, that motivation for our students, that engagement. I know Ms. Schwartz mentioned too, there's a big push for how do we get kids high school ready. Depending upon where you are, if you talk about it as the soft skills, you know, that communication, collaboration, creativity, all that gets tied into just in a very organic way with Project Lead the Way, that kids are solving those real world problems and they're getting excited about what they're doing, which encourages that productive struggle and that growth mindset, which is just imperative for them to be successful in the future.
There we go. I can piggyback a little bit off of that. Unlike Miss Leonard, I started my career in Project Lead the Way. My very first year, I was a long-term sub, and I was told at the end of the school year, we don't have a job for you unless you're able to pass this certification. So that, a little daunting, especially in the state of Florida. But the moment that I, passed the certification and I got to experience, core training and just the curriculum, I fell in love with it more so than the students. I mean, and the students get so much out of the teacher's energy. So when we walk in and we are so excited, like I was teaching chemistry this week, and seeing the kids get excited when they're understanding how the periodic table looks and everything that goes into it, and having my IED classes, which is high school, actually designing necklaces that they're making that we're 3D printing, which is a lesson I picked up from Summit just less than a month ago. So that kind of it gets the students excited to come to class. And you always hear how the electives are the courses where that's the class where the student wants to come in. It's the reason they come into class. But the teachers see it too, because you see the kids coming in doing their floor skimmers, and then talking about it with their other teachers, like, oh, let me show you how well this skimmer goes, or adding a design to something because it's what we're doing in the class and it goes beyond the 4 walls of our classroom. And then when we talk about the transportable skills, like in my classroom, I don't give tests, I don't give quizzes. So the kids see how they're doing, and I see how they're doing based off their performances, based off how they are, building things, and the way that they're working with their groups, and those transportable skills of dealing with time, dealing with the breakdown of like, how am I going to convey my idea to my group, right? It really brings a lot out of those kids, especially when they come back. I have them all 3 grade levels, but when I have an 8th grader who didn't get into the class, or a 9th grader who comes back to volunteer, and they're like, Mr. Fox, you're not going to believe what they said today. And they just start explaining, and like, and you taught us this, you told us this. It just, it sends chills up my spine, because it's how you're making an impact. And as teachers, we're often considered kind of like the silent profession, because everyone forgets about us. We are a big profession, and we are very passionate about what we do. So it's great to get that external validation from students who like, you taught me this and I was able to teach someone else, or I was able to show my high school teacher what I already knew from what you taught me in 6th or 7th or 8th grade. And it's one of the most rewarding feelings, and it's probably the biggest impact that you could actually provide to these students is they're getting the material, and because they're understanding it. It's not just regurgitation of facts.
Thank you both so much for just going in depth in how PLTW, not just Gateway, but the PLTW core programs that are happening across your district are going outside of the walls of just your classroom, but impacting the culture of the school and yourselves as well, in your own trajectory and in your own careers. Let's continue to think about that impact. And also the ways that it sounded like you both as teachers have gotten support, and you had the chance to have a way a way to have PLTW be a part of your career and your trajectories. I'd love to kind of hear from Dr. Glatfelter and Ms. Schwartz. Can you share some examples how PLTW Gateway supported or enhanced your focus on career exploration for students? We hear how it saved Ms. Leonard, kept her here with us, and now she's 2024 Gateway Teacher of the Year, and it's brought Mr. Fox into his career path. What else have you all seen at your districts?
There are a couple of ways in which it's had a huge impact. One is that our students see themselves as engineers. There was a module in which students had to present about their particular kind of engineering. And to see a student in a lab coat in front of the rest of the class saying, I am a civil engineer and this is what I do, or I'm a chemical engineer and these are the things that I do, helping them to have an idea about different types of engineering is helpful, because I didn't have that when I was young. I really didn't know what an engineer was until I was quite a ways through college. And I wish I would have had a lot of that information back then. There was a time where his teacher said, we had an argument in class. And I said, what kind of argument? And they said that there was a camp that said that civil engineering was better, and a camp that said that mechanical engineering was better. And they had their reasons, and they were actually kind of getting a little bit heated. So I loved hearing that the kids identified with the different types of engineering, and it allows teachers to be creative. We brought in our speech and language pathologist, Tyler, to speak with all of the 7th graders in our school about the types of disabilities students in our district have and how assistive technology can help improve quality of life for them. And then our teachers paired up students with a student in our district who had a disability. So Jada and Haley got paired with a student at Nancy Corey Elementary with cerebral palsy who is unable to feed herself with a spoon or a fork. And so their task was to 3D model a cylinder. They decided how they would build this. It was their idea from scratch after they had learned through Project Lead the Way how to do 3D modeling, how to do 3D printing. Then the girls were tasked with creating assistive technology for this young lady. So they 3D modeled it and printed it, and the fork didn't fit. So they had to adjust. They tried it again. It didn't fit again. So it took several iterations, but it wasn't for a grade that they were concerned. It was, this has to work for her, because they had to create something that was effective. The band didn't fit around her arm. 3D printing it wasn't the best solution, so they changed to Velcro. So again, they were applying the engineering design process using what they learned from Project Lead the Way, but in a way that was incredibly endearing. And in their final product, the first grader got to test it and feed herself with the assistive technology. And Jada and Haley gave a presentation in front of their class about lessons learned. So it was an incredibly effective way of teaching students that their work matters, that middle schoolers can make a difference in this world, and that they can choose careers where they can have an impact. It's not necessarily to make the most money, although there are lots of jobs around engineering, but they can have an impact with engineering, and I think that's powerful.
Yeah, that I can think of several different things like that too. I think that, when you're young and you think about what you want to be when you grow up, there are certain things that everyone knows about, right? Everyone goes to the doctor. People want to be doctors or a nurse or a veterinarian because they love animals. But people don't really think about, how many kids do we know that play with Legos? but have they ever heard of what an engineer is, right? I think that making those connections is so big because it opens up the world of possibilities for students to think about something that they might want to study that is real. Making those real world connections is so essential in every subject that we teach. I know that, even just like work with the math department, even we're always trying to think of ways that we can make it relevant. And it's harder to do it in some of our content areas, but in Project Lead the Way, it isn't, because what you're doing is that pre-work for a lot of different careers. We also have had outside speakers come in different careers that are connected to the PLTW classes that we offer. And we do a field trip to a local university where a scientist does a heart dissection, actually. And so our students who are in biomedical, they get to go. I mean, that is a very real world thing that if you want to get into a biomedical career, you're going to have to be okay with blood and seeing things like that. So to have them exposed to that at this age, to see if that's really something that they want to do, is huge. We also have we've had so many kids who have been liked some of these topics that we have some after school activities that are sponsored by teachers that do teach PLTW courses, and are just a way for students to expand on that. We have a robotics club where we use it's our VEX robotics club, and so that is connected to some of the courses that we teach in our engineering strand, and we have kids who take all the courses and do the club, and they've learned coding and all sorts of things that I couldn't even begin. I'm at the competitions, but I couldn't even tell you what they do because it's so intense. And they're 12, going to the World Championships of robotics. And so kids are really getting to discover some of these passions and get involved early on to provide their path. I know that for myself, when I can tell you when I had those like light bulb moments of the things that really guided me in my path of my career. And it was much later than middle school. I wish that I had something earlier, but I can tell you exactly when I realized I wanted to do something with Spanish. Because I was a Spanish teacher before a principal, and it wasn't till I was 18 years old. And I'd never wanted to be a teacher, was not in my career path. And I had to teach in my graduate program when I was 23 years old. And the second I got in front of the classroom, I realized this is my thing. I want to be a teacher. So I can tell you when my aha moments were. And I think that Project Lead the Way is providing students with those aha moments even earlier, because they're really getting into those detailed things that can help guide them in what they love to do and what they want to study in high school and college.
Thank you so much for sharing just how PLTW can really help students transition into what they truly love, as well as find those pieces. It sounds like something we would have loved to know, right? At that early age, to have that chance to really explore and figure out who we are. Some of our answers were really great and we came up on time. So I'm going to encourage everyone to hang around for the Q&A so that I can move some of these panel questions that we weren't able to get to the Q&A section. So we're going to wrap up some more stuff, but we'll definitely come back, hang out. Our panelists are going to stick around to continue to answer any of the specific questions that you may have for them, as well as our additional panel questions that we do have hanging out as well there for us. So but for now, I want us to think about one of the best ways to really see a PLTW classroom, and it's actually to visit a PLTW classroom and to see the students and teachers in action and see some of the things that all of our panelists are talking about. But since we aren't able to physically take you to a PLTW classroom today, we wanted to provide you with the next best thing, which is a two-minute peek into what a classroom can be. Watching that video is just so exciting, and it also just shows that these are definitely active and hands-on spaces where teachers help students discover things on their own and build the confidence to just see it all the way through. And oftentimes, since many of our educators want to find schools in their areas using PLTW to engage students and boost success and see it in action with their own eyes, not even just on the screen, we've added a school locator to our website. We'll drop that link here in the chat for you to check out. So we just heard from our panelists and how they've seen firsthand the way that PLTW transformed the learning and teaching in their schools. But the first step in that transformation process is in creating a strategic plan. And part of that plan is having a detailed view of the required investments and identifying the funding sources that you can use to support your program. The investment in PLTW programs may vary, but each program includes investments in 3 categories: the participation fee, professional development, and equipment and supplies. The participation fee is an annual fee that covers all of the curriculum access and the software rights for your PLTW program. And to be able to reach one of our courses, teach one of our courses, a teacher must be trained by PLTW in our core training experience, which you've heard some of our teachers on our panel speak to today. And lastly, our curriculum is project-based and very hands-on. So there are some equipment and supplies that you will need for your implementation. And so now that we know more about those investment needs, let's talk about some funding opportunity to help you grow your programs. Every year, we have a wide variety of PLTW grants available for all programs, including brand new programs and program expansion. These PLTW programs are made possible by our partnerships with leading organizations across the country. And in 2024, PLTW awarded 1,619 grants totaling $14.6 million to schools in 46 states and DC. And this year we have more grants available to schools than ever before. We have brand new grant opportunities for all 5 of our programs currently available on our website. These are new PLTW grants. These new PLTW grants will cover the cost of teacher training as well as program participation fees for the next 2 years. Please check out our grant opportunity webpage to find out more and schedule a meeting with your local PLTW team member. Cannot stress that last point enough. We are ready and willing to find out more about your district vision and to help you with your grant application as well. Through most of these grants, PLTW will partner with your school or district to help you throughout your PLTW implementation journey and beyond. Applying for PLTW grants is easy through our simple application process located in your My PLTW account. And if you don't already have one, you can create this account quickly and easily on our website. We award grants on a rolling basis from June 1st to June 30th, so schools may submit applications annually. PLTW keeps applications on file until June 30th of each year, so we may consider schools for more than one grant opportunity throughout the funding cycle. And our PLTW grant opportunities are amazing, so especially this year, and we encourage you and everyone to apply. Get your application in, get your application in. Can't say that enough. We also want to note the specific call out to evidence-based curriculum. I want to be sure you know about our evidence papers, one for each grade band, which enables you to dive deeper into the structure of our evidence-based curriculum and learn about our unique problem-based learning approach. Review the research supporting the positive impact PLTW also has on student achievement, and you can download these resources to continue to review those points a little bit more from our website. Back to the funding, though. So besides PLTW grants, there are several federal funding opportunities for you to utilize. And to help you break down and compare, we have created a funding side-by-side resource. It's also available on our website. And this resource will help you see available federal funds and which funds can be used for each of those 3 different investment areas. Remember the participation fee, you have the professional development, and then the equipment and supplies there. So with that, you're probably kind of wondering, where do I start? What's the next move should I make? We're happy to support you with next steps. We recommend that you connect with a PLTW team member to discuss any questions that you have. We also want you to visit pltw.org on our PLTW Gateway page, you can see a range of resources there, like the science standards alignment, the unit outlines and summaries, to really help you start to plan out your implementation, maybe selecting some of those great units they've mentioned here today on our panel, and other things. And then you can read some of the blog stories about how other schools have unlocked student potential with PLTW. You'll also want to be sure to, again, apply for grant funding at mypltw.org and create your educator account there if you have not done so already. Now's the time for the Q&A, right? And this wraps up the presentation portion for today's webinar. Our PLTW team members and panelists are here to answer any questions you might have. So you can submit those questions via the chat. For those of you who are unable to stay, I want to go ahead and say thank you so much for joining us. In the coming week, you'll receive an email with a recording of this webinar and additional resources to address any questions you still may have. And if you'd like to discuss your implementation plan one-on-one, you can reach out to the PLTW Solutions Center, and their contact information will also be included in the follow-up email. But now we're going to go off to those questions, and I know that I have some amazing PLTW team members here, and I also want to be able to answer and ask our panelists those last two questions, because I think it might also really illuminate. So I'll wait for my helping hand.
Yeah, thanks, Christy. You don't have amazing team members, but at least I'm helping you. So hi, everybody. I'm Rob, and I'm a teammate of Christy's, and I'm helping out with this virtual showcase. The first question that we have here, I want to circle back up into the chat, comes from Erin, and she asked about the words unit and module. Are those interchangeable? And then the follow-up part of that question is, when you have a teacher certified for teaching PLTW Gateway, does that automatically give the school access to these 10 units/modules?
Really great question. I can start off with the difference between unit and module. So for PLTW, technically, when we say modules, most of us are referring to actually a different program, which is PLTW Launch, which has 42 different modules for our pre-K through 5 students. And typically, when a district might have a pre-K through 8, pre-K through 5 pathway, you're therefore then utilizing modules and units. Those units are typically all at the middle school level, which is PLTW Gateway, and where we have 10 different units. So some of those that we've heard mentioned from those on the panel are things such as medical detectives, or computer science for innovators and makers, or design and modeling. Those are some of those units there. And so you might hear those kind of utilized not interchangeably, but utilized together depending on the implementation that a district has. Can you give me the second half of that? Because I also think a panelist might be even better for that second half of that question.
Yeah, the second half was, does the PLTW Gateway certification automatically give you access to all 10 of the units or modules? And the answer is units, of course.
I'm going to throw that to Ms. Leonard or Mr. Fox. I know one of them can immediately answer that.
So it doesn't. So when you take the Project Lead the Way courses, each course is separate. It requires about 40 hours of training, and you're training with other teachers who teach Project Lead the Way. They're actually teaching those individual courses. So you're getting firsthand experience for what they're doing in their classes. And those individuals are referred to as master teachers. So I believe Matt and I both are master teachers. I know I'm a master teacher for flight and space. So you're actually getting those training from teachers who are currently teaching it in the classroom.
And as when you're in those trainings, you're receiving the entire coursework in those 40 hours. So it's an expedited program where you're going through, and not only are you doing the activities, but you're also discussing with other teachers about best practices for implementation, and you're getting hands-on, not hands-on, you're getting the first person perspective from your master teachers, giving you like the ins and outs of how you could best do this with what fits your classroom. So it's great professional development, and it's applicable to you either if you're teaching it while you're in the professional development, or if you're preparing yourself, like maybe taking it over the summer to facilitate it in August. It gives you everything you need, and your master teachers are always there to help you, even long gone. I have people still reaching out to me like, hey, real quick, how could I do this? And even though I taught them, 4 or 5 years ago for, design and modeling or something.
Thank y'all for helping out with that one. Rob, back to you for the next question.
So as part of that, I just want to follow up if I can. What we're often asked is, can anyone teach PLTW Gateway? And I think that fits right in with what Matt was answering and what you're asking. So if we can address that, I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, honestly, when it comes to PLTW Gateway, the hardest part is that it's middle school. I mean, it takes a special kind of person to teach middle school, to choose to be around, all of these students who are just trying to survive, basically. When it comes to teaching the course itself, the best thing I could think of is, you're flipping your perspective as a teacher. You're no longer the sage on the stage, the end all be all, the person with all the questions. Instead, you're the facilitator, because that's what it is. You're facilitating these classes. So when you're giving, lessons and you're explaining things, they're learning. But when they're doing the projects, which is like I said, I don't give tests or quizzes. The way I know they get the material is by watching how they're interacting. So for me, I'm now a facilitator. I'm walking around, I'm, interjecting, or I'll sit there at the end of a table and just go, and see how they interpret that, to see what's next or what questions they would then want to ask. Anyone can do this if they have that kind of, mindset. If they know that I'm no longer going to control every little thing in my classroom. I tell my administrators, and I get a lot of new ones, it's organized chaos. I know what's going on in the classroom, but when you come in, you might want to ask me first or reach out to me and send me an email, because it's going to look wild. But I mean, you guys saw the videos of the classroom. There's people on chairs. They're stepping down. They're stepping up. They're, flipping pancakes around. Like that's what the classroom looks like on a daily basis. That's not just a, hey, come in for this one project. Where no, it's always that, hands off from the educator perspective.
And I would just add to that, I would say having a science background is helpful, but it is not a prerequisite. So with the training that Project Lead the Way gives you through your access to those master teachers, other teachers that you're training with nationwide, anybody from any content can teach what we do. In terms of what Matt's saying too, you just really want to make sure that you kind of are going into it with that open mindset and that growth mindset of understanding that your role as that teacher is going to look very different in your classroom than it would look in a traditional core classroom. But anyone in a core setting, or any related arts for that matter, would be successful in teaching Project Lead the Way, especially if you have the passion for it and you're setting the stage up for your students to have success because you are excited about what you're teaching. So if you are enjoying what you're teaching every day, the kids are going to just feed off of that, and the energy in your classroom is going to be amazing. And you'll have so many aha moments. You'll have students who typically are behavior issues taking on leadership roles, and you get to see completely different sides of them, which then you're that really positive individual in conferences being able to say to parents, I'm very lucky to actually see this side of your child, and they're being leaders. They're taking on that ability to teach other students in your classroom. So it's really just a mindset and an environment that you're setting up for kids to be successful. And that's every kid. Every kid can be successful.
Thank you both for that. And just thinking about how the training is set up, how all students can be successful in PLTW and all teachers can be successful in PLTW training as well. We've countlessly heard stories about the school nurse, or there's been a media technologist or the librarian transitioning into the role. And it really does take a love and for teaching, a love for the students, as well as just really wanting to explore just the exact same way that students want to do it. And so it's really exciting to know that PLTW can play a part in that, and that the training is substantial, and noting that training is, they can receive it in a variety of ways. We have those in-person options, which have limited locations, but the virtual options are just as amazing. And they're provided asynchronously and synchronously. So it does provide teachers a good balance in receiving that. So I'll transition back to Rob, and we'll take another question since we have a little bit more time too.
All right. So the only thing I want to add into that is we know that there are certain states that have certification and license requirements for teaching science. So, definitely reach out to your leader or to a PLTW team member to find out more about that in your state. The next question is about funding. So how How did you get funding started? Do you have any tips or tricks? And how did you reach out to the community for that?
I'm sending that straight to the panel. It
I can-
sounded like it's for y'all.
I can say, I can add a little bit in I feel like I need to wave, sorry, my lights went off in my office, there we go. So I think one of the good things about Project Lead the Way, I think it kind of goes with like who can teach Project Lead the Way? Well, pretty much from anywhere. I feel like the funding also, there's a lot of different ways that you can finagle funding because we've been able to use some of our federal funds, our federal Title II funds to fund training. Because there are engineering and there are, career and technical education. There's all different sorts of strands that funding can come from. Engineering, health sciences, let's see, there's a computer technology. There's a lot of different areas that you can pull funds from if you are into that really nitty gritty funding district level stuff, which I'm not, obviously, I'm not speaking the best about it, but the funds can come from a lot of different places at the district and federal panel. We also I think it takes a commitment to, say, we're going to implement this, so we're going to use some of our funds for there. We were able to kind of look at some areas where we could consolidate courses, and we got rid of a couple other electives that were in the same realm, but we thought that we would get some of the same students to take it in order to redirect the funds to this. We also were able to get some grants. We have a local foundation that we were able to get grants from, and that really helped. I've also found just, in terms of sustainability for funds, from year to year, there's the startup cost, and then there's the kind of consumables per year. And I found that, it's PLTW has it laid out really well. So you can really tell how much you will need each year to replace those consumables. And we have made budget line items for each of our courses. That way, every year there's not a scramble like, oh my gosh, we need all of these, these consumables for our courses. We've been able to actually create line items at the building level to ensure that we have that from our supply budget. So that's one of my biggest tips, is just making sure that you look at what is startup and then what is consumables. And the different courses have different consumables. So having that be a line item makes it really a lot easier each year to ensure that you have the budget to keep the course going.
And I'll just add a couple of things to that. I think when you share with your school board the successes and what the needs are, I think there's a lot of support for that as well. We wrote it into our school plan. So because it's something that's important to us, it's priority. Having it in the school plan protects that in California. In terms of grants, we reached out to our local Air Force Research Lab. We happen to have one close by, and so we're within their service area. In our first year, we received $150,000 in computers, and I got an email saying, hey, Andy, could you use $50,000 to build a makerspace at your school? So that was incredible. Not everybody is within that area, but again, Project Lead the Way's grants are amazing. And so we received $20,000 from Verizon through Project Lead the Way for tablets that we needed for a computer science class. And then if you have access to Perkins funds through career technical education, that's huge. I didn't have that until just last year, but in the district prior, we've made it a focus and a priority. We had plenty of money. Perkins added on top of that this past year and this year.
My mute button almost couldn't come off mute quick enough. I was going to say, Dr. Blackfelter, I was going to say, hey, don't forget those Perkins funds. They can start as early as the 5th grade. So definitely check those out with our resources, such as that funding side by side on our page. And It always feels like we could use more time to continue to talk about the great things that are happening in each of our panelists' classrooms and their school districts, as well as share with you just some of the joy that we have experienced in PLTW, but we're coming up on time. So again, we want to say thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to continue to learn more about PLTW and see PLTW in action and learn from our panelists here. Again, if you have additional questions or you need additional resources or you need to connect with your PLTW team member, please reach out to the PLTW Solutions Center. They're available 24/7. They will get you directed to the right resource or to the right person to help you start to explore or continue to explore implementing PLTW Gateway within your school. And if you have any specific questions for our panelists, you can also reach out to us and we'll help you follow up with them so that you can continue to learn from those that are doing the amazing work that they're doing inside of their classrooms. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to hopefully hanging out with you again at another PLTW event.